One person who acts on behalf of them very, very bravely, who advocates for them at great personal risk, is someone who's been through some of the horrendous actions that the regime has visited on its own people. That is Shiva Mahbobi. She is a former Iranian political prisoner who acts and is a fearless advocate for Iranians. Shiva, it's great to have you on the programme. Can you just tell me your thoughts today on day 3 of this? Because our viewers and listeners are coming to this, they're not experts, and neither am I, on the situation, on Iran. But what is at stake here, Shiva?
I think people's life in general, we know war is not good for people, of course. People in Iran knows that. But I guess what you mentioned previously, it seems like there is only one-sided narrative. Yes, they talk about the war, they talk about the attack on Iran, they talk about what impact has on the regime, but I don't hear really people or media or politicians talk about what's happening inside Iran. If it's okay, I want to give you a picture and your viewer or listener, and that is, we're not dealing with only a war, because it's different. If a country being attacked, usually the government of that country, they provide shelter, security, safety, and everything. In Iran, there is no shelter, there is no protection. Instead, IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which Keir Starmer hasn't put them on the list of terrorist organizations yet, they are patrolling all around across Iran in different cities. They're arresting people. You may not believe it. Even now, today I got a news that the IRGC sent SMS, the text message to people saying that, well, Khamenei has died, and if anyone come on the street and invoke any protest, they're gonna face with sort of suppression, I mean, in their own words.
Well, they've talked about those people being in control of foreign agents and so on, which they're absolutely not. They're simply people who want their rights.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm just one example of women who've been fighting all my life just to have a life worthy of a human being.
Tell us what happened to you, Shiva.
Well, when the regime took power, I want to just clarify something. The 1979 revolution, it was not an Islamic revolution. It was people's revolution against the dictatorship of Shah, but it was hijacked by the Islamists. Since then, I mean, they started suppressing women. I started my activity since I was 11 years old, because that's what happened.
What did you do? How did you resist?
Nothing really, because the fact that you're not obeying their rule, meaning you might wear your scarf, just a bit of your hair coming down, like Mahsa Jina Aminu, who were killed just because of part of her hair was out of the scarf. So you don't do anything really. It's a joke. When people say that, what did you do to end up in prison? I was part of students. We were against execution, we're for women's rights. Nothing else really. When I was 12 years old, I was arrested because our schools were shut down by the regime. And we simply protested to say that we want our school back. And that's why I was arrested for 6 days. And that went on. I was arrested when I was 16 years old for 3 years and 4 months. Many of my friends were executed. So you have to remember that you can't just see this war. You have to put it in context. 47 years, almost half a century, people have fought for freedom, for the life that you guys have in the UK. People enjoyed in the UK, that's all. And for that, the brutality of the regime is so much that they've been killing constantly. So it makes sense now, the only way they stay on power is by arresting people, killing people inside, and also creating chaos in this, or they think it's a chaos.
When you were, Shiva, when you were in prison for 3 years and 4 months, what was that actually for? And tell me about the conditions you were held in.
I was a student activist. When you say student activist, meaning you say, I want my freedom. I don't want to be suppressed. That's all, nothing else. I was in solitary confinement sometimes for months, at some point for 7 whole months. I was lashed, I was beaten up, I was deprived of having medication, I was deprived of having taking shower. everything you can imagine. And worse than that, you see your fellow prisoners dying in front of you. So I relate so much to this situation, because when I was in prison, it was in the time of war between Iran and Iraq. So I was left, let's say 17 years old, was left in solitary confinement. The guards would shut the door and they would go while the sirens were playing, and we were inside there. The only thing I was doing, I was going, sitting in a corner of my small cell, and I was holding my hand to my head. I didn't know what else to do when the walls were shaking. This is what exactly we heard today.
How did you get out of Iran? How did you get out of Iran?
Well, I left Iran because they wanted to arrest me again. I left Iran. I went to Turkey through UNHCR and became an asylum seeker, because there were no way to stay. Many people, when they talk about refugees, they think they just come to other countries because they love to. No, I had to leave, because otherwise I would have been killed. So therefore I had to leave. So when I speak about prison, my experience multiplied by millions. In just recently, they raped women, they burned women, they mutilated women. No one pays attention to that. We're dealing with a regime that is like Hitler. All they talk about, it's about the attack. Fine. We don't want war, we don't want anything like that, but we're dealing with the regime. Right now inside Iran, to be honest, people are more scared of the regime than the attack. That's how they feel.
What are you thinking at the moment? Are you thinking, this is, obviously it's a wonderful thing that the Ayatollah is dead, but the regime is still there. This is a moment of great possibility, but there's a lot of jeopardy, and you must be worried about what exactly happens in the next few days.
Absolutely. Every single day, we all wake up with lots of worry to see what happened. One, there is a digital blackout, and we don't have any way to contact our family. That's one thing. Imagine if you don't know if they're alive or not. Secondly, as I said, we don't know what's happening, because some of the residential are near the IRGC places, because that's what they do. And apparently they even have meetings in the hospitals and schools, just like how they trained Hamas to do that. So therefore, it's really worrying. You don't know what's going to happen. But as I said, really my main worry, if you ask me, that the day that the Islamic regime knows that its last day, it's going to shoot people, it's going to basically massacre people.
So you're worried about the political prisoners now, and you worry the regime could kill them, murder them before it falls.
Absolutely, because according to the news just we got today and yesterday, they have been transferring political prisoners to unknown locations. In one of the prison, when they rioted, they tried to find some shelter. They beaten them up and they keep them in solitary confinement. So our worry really right now is that the first thing they do, they use political prisoners as human shield. They will take them to the IRGC bases, which they are doing it. When families are worried, because if their kid's going to be taken to these IRGC places, either they shoot them or either they leave them to die. So that's how cruel they are. So when people, it makes me angry when people have only one narrative and they tell us, why you're happy Khamenei died? Look, I'm wearing semi-red collar because I am so happy, because Khamenei is like a Hitler of Iran, and we all happy they died. We are happy that there is a targeted attack, because these people were untouchable. You know how many people cried when they attacked the IRGC places? I would hear people saying, young people saying, do you know that what happened to me in that IRGC place? I was tortured and raped. Yeah. Of course we're happy.
And I wonder what your message to Keir Starmer is in this country, because we've heard from him and he's somewhere in the middle, but he's certainly not for the attacks that the Americans and Israelis are putting forward. What would you say to him, and maybe to our viewers and listeners as well, who might be thinking, what should I think about this? What should my view be? What would you say to them?
Well, first of all, regarding Keir Starmer, he's always in the middle. I mean, he has never done anything for people in Iran. Lindsay and Craig Foreman are British citizens, is inside Iran. What did they do to release them?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Iranian, I'm talking about British people.
Yes.
What did they do? Nothing. So they've always been in the middle. We keep saying that you need to shut down the regime's embassy. You need to kick out the regime's diplomat. You need to put the IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard, on the list of terrorist organizations. They haven't done anything. So therefore, the question is that right now, we have to get the whole narrative. We have to put it in context. Right now, people in Iran are dealing with the regime that is the most brutal. What do we do to support people? And let me tell you something to all these people in Britain. Islamic regime is not a danger just for people in Iran. They had so many terrorist plots inside Britain, and the Foreign Office didn't do anything, actually. So the question is, how do we support people in Iran? By being their voice. When you are going to the hands of Iran, you need to say hands of people in Iran by the regime, basically. You need to ask the British government to shut down the regime's embassy. How can the regime embassy be open when in the last 2 months they killed more than 40,000 people? Does that mean anything to people? Can you imagine I'm asking everyone, can you imagine your son, your daughter goes on the march, and then after that, you don't know where they are. You go and the government tell you, go and open all those body bags. See if your son or daughter is there. And then you have to pay for the bullet that we shot your son or daughter. And then you find out they've been raped, they've been mutilated. How would you feel? This is what we're dealing with Iran. At this moment, my most fear, to be honest, is the regime killing all the political prisoners, and we don't know where they are. I need to ask people to appeal to their humanity, that put pressure on the British government. They need to shut down the regime's embassy. There is a message in that. The message in that we cannot tolerate it. But unfortunately, we don't see that. We've been talking to British government for years. You know, what do they say? They say that we cannot close the embassy because there is no channel of negotiation. And you tell me, for the last 47 years old, what did they do? What did they achieve through
negotiation? It's a very, very fair point. A very fair point. And Shiva, you've spoken so eloquently and so convincingly and so movingly, actually, in the last 15 minutes. And I want to thank you for speaking to me, and I hope we speak again soon. That is Shiva Mahbobi, their former Iranian political prisoner.